Welcome to this explainer. Okay, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by that relentless everyday pressure to just go viral overnight, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're unpacking an absolute masterclass taken straight from comedian Ali Siddiq's fascinating conversation on the Joe Rogan Experience. We're going to map out the true life cycle of mastering any craft. Really, we're breaking down the exact philosophy that separates those flash-in-the-pan internet celebrities from true lifelong masters. Let's dive in.
So to answer this, we first have to confront a universal modern pain point, which is the exhausting anxiety of chasing likes, views, and viral fame. I mean, so many people today look at someone getting millions of views literally overnight and immediately ask, why on earth isn't that happening for me? And you know, that constant comparison, it creates a massive amount of frustration. We're living in an era where we're constantly encouraged to measure our worth through metrics we ultimately just cannot control. Which brings us right to the core problem of how we view success today.
All right, part 1, the myth of viral fame and why you need to fall in love with the process.
Take a look at the outcomes on the left side here. Follower counts, likes, revenue, awards. Ali Siddiq points out that endlessly chasing these creates unnecessary anxiety, mostly because they depend entirely on the whims of the crowd and the algorithm. You literally cannot control them. Instead, you've got to shift your focus to the right side of the equation. The process. Writing every single day, practicing, actually improving your skills, learning from your mistakes, and honestly, just showing up. Success, whether you're a comedian, an entrepreneur, or an athlete, is built through thousands of these tiny, controllable actions, rather than just one lucky break. The bottom line is, whether you are building a business, creating art, or running a channel, you must fall in love with the work itself. That makes success a natural byproduct of your joy in the process. You know, so many careers become absolutely miserable because people only enjoy the applause or the paycheck, but they completely despise the daily grind required to actually earn them. Joe Rogan compares this perfectly to martial arts. Think about it. The repetitive drilling, the buckets of sweat, the lonely hours spent in an empty gym. A fighter who trains like that enters a competition knowing they've done everything humanly possible to prepare. That unshakable confidence, it's not just some personality trait, it is a direct result of falling in love with the preparation. When we're endlessly scrolling through social media, we really only see the polished tip of the iceberg. What we totally miss are these brutal realities. We don't see the nights bombing on stage, the soul-crushing empty rooms, the constant rewriting, or frankly, the financial struggles. Siddiq reminds us that this invisible work is the foundation of absolutely everything. You just cannot skip this step. This gritty, unglamorous phase is exactly where your timing, your emotional intelligence, and your ultimate adaptability are actually forged. Moving on to part 2, authenticity over imitation, unleashing the absolute power of your own unique voice.
Algorithms may create temporary fame. Character creates lasting careers. Wow. If you're building a brand, a business, or a channel, please remember that audiences instinctively recognize sincerity. It is incredibly tempting for new creators to just, copy someone else's rhythm because it seems to be working for them, or to rely on outrageous shock value to get a super quick reaction. But Siddiq argues that while shock gets immediate attention, it rarely earns lasting respect. When you speak honestly, drawing from your own genuine and often painful life experiences, you build an unbreakable trust that absolutely no one else can imitate.
Siddiq deliberately avoids divisive political humor, choosing instead to bring people together. And his approach really comes down to these 3 fundamental steps: creating what you genuinely care about, focusing on timeless quality, and building unshakable trust through absolute honesty. He just observes everyday life, the minor inconveniences, the strange little interactions we all have, and he transforms them into stories that tap into universal human emotions, things like fear, hope, and totally relatable embarrassment. By embedding these steps into your daily routine, you shift your focus entirely from chasing today's fleeting trends to creating timeless content rooted in genuine human connection.
So, that brings us to part 3. Failure is your teacher. Entering the crucible of the craft.
Siddiq shared this really profound story on the podcast. He was once booked to perform, and exactly 3 people showed up in the entire venue. Literally 3 people. Now, instead of just walking away or totally half-assing his set, he performed exactly as if it were a sold-out arena. He treated those terrible conditions as vital practice, recognizing that every single audience, no matter how ridiculously small, deserves respect. And more importantly, every single opportunity is a chance for you to improve. Just read this quote. "Greatness isn't demonstrated when conditions are perfect, it is demonstrated when conditions are terrible."
Every single failure, every awkward silence, every empty room. It's not proof you lack talent. It's actually the very crucible where your confidence is forged. I mean, anyone can perform with incredible enthusiasm when the theater is packed and the lighting is absolutely flawless. But it's discipline, not ego, that keeps a true professional completely committed when things are completely falling apart.
By watching comedy legends like Paul Rodriguez and Ron White, Siddiq realized that the stage, or really whatever arena you happen to operate in, is just a diagnostic tool. When a joke or a project fails, amateurs think it means they should just quit. Masters, they look at it as raw data. You learn to read the room. You test, you adjust, you figure out exactly where the energy drops, and you master the art of recovering. You finally realize that success doesn't somehow erase self-doubt. Instead, you learn how to perform right through it by trusting your deep, relentless preparation.
All right, let's dive into part 4, becoming a custom fit, and what this lifelong evolution really looks like.
So, being a custom fit, which actually happens to be the title of one of Siddiq's tours, isn't about clothing or fashion. It's a really profound metaphor for maturity. It means remaining fiercely yourself while also remaining flexible enough to thrive anywhere. It really captures the absolute essence of a seasoned professional. It means understanding your environment and finding brilliant ways to connect without ever pretending to be someone you aren't. It's the ultimate balance of adaptability and identity.
In his special My Father, Siddiq embodies this evolution perfectly. Honestly, this is the ultimate payoff of decades of hard work. Unlike a frantic routine of rapid-fire jokes, this special explores deeply heavy themes like family, hardship, and identity. He actually trusts his audience enough to let serious emotional moments breathe. With time and perspective, a master learns how to take intense pain, experiences that definitely were not funny when they actually happened, and reshape them into something intensely therapeutic and powerful for others to experience.
To avoid the stagnation that naturally comes when you get a little too comfortable, you've got to remain infinitely curious. Rogan and Siddiq spent a lot of time discussing the power of an inquisitive mind. They even touched on pop culture and the expansive perspective gained through psychedelics. Keeping that open mind is exactly what keeps you deeply creative. You have to treat every conversation, every trip, and every strange encounter as material for continued growth. You cannot think about what's going to make you famous this week. You have to shift your entire mindset to ask what kind of creator you want to be in 10 or even 20 years.
Which leads us to our final section, part 5, the blueprint for mastery, and our final thoughts.
Here is your ultimate roadmap. If you take anything away from this explainer, let it be these 3 core principles. First, stop obsessing over the metrics you literally cannot control and learn to trust the daily process. Second, start viewing your failures and your empty rooms as an essential training ground that gives you vital, raw data. And third, most importantly, lean into your own life experiences with uncompromising authenticity. Literally no one else on earth has lived your exact story, making it your single greatest competitive advantage.
So I'll leave you with this final challenging thought. Are you chasing fame, or are you truly striving for excellence? Ask yourself this question every single time you sit down to work, to write, or to create. Because fame might be a total accident, just a lucky strike of the algorithm. But true excellence, that always creates lasting value. Focus on the excellence, fall deeply in love with the training, and let the long game unfold. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope these insights help you build a custom